I've tried pretty much every way to make money online that you can think of, like freelancing, eBay arbitrage, running an agency, Amazon FBA, you name it. Some of them made me a few $1,000s, others lost me money, but only one that has consistently made me money and allowed me to be financially free. So in this video, I'm going to break down every method I've tried, why most of them failed, and how I stumbled into the one approach that changed everything. So my first attempt at business was selling basically copycats cases on eBay, right? That was my first business. And the way that I discovered this was I was browsing through eBay and I found that they were selling these cases for like $30 on eBay, original cases, trademark. And then there were a bunch of people that were selling these same cases. Basically, visually, they look the same for like $10, $15. So I'm like, okay, where do these people kind of like source or take these cases to sell them for like 50% of the price? So I started looking where I can source these products, and I discovered this website called AliExpress. It wasn't dropshipping. I had zero understanding. I barely spoke English at that point, but I decided to sell these cases. And so I started buying these cases from AliExpress and then shipping them directly to customers. I put my listing on eBay, started generating sales. I was buying them for like $3-4 and then selling them for like $10-15. So I was making like $7-8 profit per sale, which for me was a lot back in Ukraine. That was about 2014. And as I started generating these sales, I was using my PayPal account. And PayPal at that point didn't even exist in Ukraine. So I had my old PayPal account back from the time when I was in the United States for the first time when I was young. And I started using that account. It was for personal use. It wasn't for business. And I hit this limit of $2,000 that I could have there or process. And then they started asking for business information. Hey, it seems like you're operating a business here. You're starting to make some money. So you need to provide some business information. And I didn't have the business information. So I basically had $2,000 stuck at PayPal that I couldn't extract. So that was one of the first challenges that I ever faced in business, not having that PayPal account because PayPal didn't exist back in Ukraine. And I went across the border to Poland to open a bank account there. I had a friend there. He helped me out. So I opened the PayPal account in Poland and I started using that to continue selling on eBay. Then I discovered these vintage glasses that I was buying for about $20 or $30 and selling them for $100, $150. Profit margin was incredible, so I started selling few of those a week. And so at that point, I was working in a factory and I was making like $2 per hour, even less than that. So if I was making a few $100s from this kind of like side business, for me, it was a good side income. But at some point, these glasses just stopped selling. There were other people that were selling these glasses for a lot cheaper, and basically they cut me down price. They started selling them basically at cost that, it would cost me to source the product. Also, my supplier decided to increase prices at the same time. So that business got fucked. And as I was selling these products, I constantly would see other sellers getting shut down. People would start selling something and then the platform would shut them down. Maybe there was a reason for shutting them down, maybe there wasn't, but I saw the dependency that we have on all of these platforms, and I wanted to put myself in a position where I have more independence, even though I didn't know exactly how to do it. One thing I've learned early on in business is that business pretty much is a problem-solving process, right? That's all you do. You solve problems all day long. You'll have some challenges, you'll have some obstacles. For me, it was infrastructure issues at that point of time, but that forces you to find alternatives. And the people that succeed in business, they just treat these problems as, normal. That's just something I have to deal with instead of giving up. So at some point, I just decided to abandon my eBay business. It wasn't making money anymore. And sometime after, I was still working in a factory and I decided to go into the business full force. And I started as a freelancing on, at that point, it was Elance or Upwork now. Like it basically renamed the platform later on. And I realized that I can provide services to businesses and get paid for it, which for me, my goal at that point was making $2,000 a month. And I started out as a virtual assistant. So I was, $8 per hour, which was a lot more than I was getting paid at a factory, like $2 per hour. And I was helping businesses with different tasks. But I realized very quickly that freelancing is pretty much like a job. You have a ceiling because you're trading your time for money. And even if you're making good hourly rates, maybe you're making $50 per hour or $100 per hour or even more, you're still trapped because there's only so many hours in a day that you can work on your business. Later on, I also tried running an agency. An agency is a good business model because it has good cash flow, but at the same time, you're helping clients scale, you're getting them results, and at some point, they just decide to fire you. They decide to bring that team in-house, or maybe they have someone that they want to give the business to. Either way, no clients last forever in agency. And so you spend all of this time, you spend all of these resources to help someone else's business grow, and you're getting nothing in return besides, this kind of like income that you're getting in the short term. Also, you're constantly dealing with clients. Some of them wouldn't pay you, some of them would cause you issues, some of them would message you like 2 a.m. in the morning because, they have a bad mood. They would constantly harass you and just create this horrible experience. You constantly stressed out, and after seeing so many agency owners, like most of them are stressed as fuck. I also tried Amazon FBA, but Amazon FBA is very hard business model because you have to pay for the inventory upfront without even knowing if the product sells. And right now, if you wanted to launch an Amazon product, realistically, you would need tens of thousands of dollars, probably $40,000-$50,000 to properly launch a product on Amazon. I didn't realize it at that point, and I just got burned. So Amazon just lost me money. So one business model that actually worked for me and changed my life is e-commerce. And I was kind of like forced into it. So I got into e-commerce by accident when freelancing because I was working with some clients and one of them was running an e-commerce business. And he was running this brand called Denimio. You can probably still find it online. They were selling these like vintage jeans. As they were selling these jeans, I realized, okay, the owner was living in France at that point. He was sourcing products from Japan and selling them in the United States market. So I realized I don't have to be attached to a particular place, particular kind of like location in order to sell products online. But I also realized that in order for me to replicate that business or to start that business, I would have to spend a lot of money on the inventory. Because if I wanted to sell products like jeans, for example, I would have to spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on inventory. And at that point, I didn't have that amount of money. So I got excited about e-commerce, but at that point, I was simply not in position to run that business. But then one of my next clients was running a different type of e-commerce business. He was running a dropshipping business and he was traveling all over the world. He didn't have inventory. He was running the business from his laptop. He had like total freedom and he was making a lot of money. As a freelancer, I was running ads for him and I was basically generating all of the sales. I knew exactly where he was sourcing his products, how much he was selling those products for, how much he was paying for those products, what was the margin, what was the profit. And I was like, wow, this is a great business model that I can potentially model. And soon after, I started my first dropshipping store. Dropshipping was great because it didn't have the inventory problem, so I didn't have to spend as much money to get that business started. And also, I could start testing products very fast without buying inventory. For me, that was a massive breakthrough because I saw that in order to start an e-commerce business, I have to spend tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars on inventory. And at that point, I didn't have the money. And here I realized that I can just test products without even having the product in hand, and I can sell that product successfully and make the profit. And at the same time, dropshipping business model and e-commerce in general has scale because you can sell this same product many times over and you don't have to add, a lot of people to your team or a lot of contractors or account managers in order to scale the business. So at that point, I realized that selling products is a lot more reliable and profitable than selling services. Dropshipping business and e-commerce business, it scales without trading time for money. If you can sell product one time, you can probably sell it 1,000 times or 10,000 times. Also, when I was starting out, I didn't have special skills, I didn't have experience, I didn't have huge capital, so I didn't have any advantages whatsoever like most people. And then as I was running dropshipping business for some time, I got pretty good at it. I discovered that, customers were not coming back to buy from me, so I developed the lean e-commerce brand method. When you start with dropshipping model, you validate the product, and then as product gets traction, you switch to a brand, you create custom packaging, you improve the quality of your product, you improve customer experience, so you turn that dropshipping store into a real brand. And there's a mindset shift from quick money to building a real business because with dropshipping, you can make quick money. It's not a problem whatsoever. But the problem is when you start a dropshipping business and then you sell the product and then it stops selling and then you have to create another store, and it kind of like goes in these cycles where you're not building anything long term and you're not building like something that you're proud of. And about 5 years ago, because so many people were asking me for advice, we decided to open the education company that helps people to start and scale e-commerce businesses. We're pretty much sharing with them what's working for us in our business that they can copy to theirs and scale up. One of the massive advantages of e-commerce is that it's an exitable business. If you structure it in the right way and the business is profitable, you can sell it for a good amount of money. So for example, if your e-commerce business does $1 million a year in profit, you can sell that business from anywhere between 2 and 4x multiple, which means $2 to $4 million that you would get for that business on top of having all of the profit in the short term. Also, if you structure e-commerce business right, it doesn't rely on you at all. You can have team members responsible for different parts of the business. You can have systems in place so you can set up the business that not just giving you the financial freedom, but also like true lifestyle freedom. It doesn't rely on you at all. It's a true lifestyle business. And by the way, if you want to join Brand Builders Academy, where I'll show you the exact lean e-commerce brand business model that took me from $2 per hour factory worker to creating multiple 8-figure business, click the first link in the description below. Now, when I was starting out my e-commerce business back in 2016-17, everything was hard. Everything had to be done manually. Now we have AI. AI can speed up product research that used to take hours. Now you can do all of that process in minutes. For example, you can use tools like GetHooked.ai, where you can literally see what products are selling right now, how much people are selling those products for, and you can model all of their system. You can model the website, you can model their ads, you can just literally copy the whole business model in just hours. You can also analyze your competitor ad data in minutes instead of days. So if you want to get into e-commerce and you're not sure what products to sell, this just completely eliminates the guesswork from product selection. You can also write high converting scripts for your ads or for your product pages using AI. So all of this here was created in just like 60 seconds here inside of GetHooked. And if you wanted to create actual ads to sell your product, you can do that as well. So for example, here you just choose an inspiration or the ad from your competitor, and it will create you high quality variations of images that you can use on ads to sell your product. So many of the tasks that previously were done manually, or you would have to hire some expensive contractors or vendors or service providers, now all of that can be done using AI. Also, AI can handle customer service emails automatically, which can save you a lot of time. You can use tools like Reach Panel to do that. So once you start taking advantage of all of these tools, it doesn't take as much time to run your business. At the same time, before you do any of that, before you start taking advantage of AI, you still need to know the fundamentals, because if you don't understand the margins, if you don't understand market validation, consumer psychology, then whether you're using AI or not, you will fail. And a lot of people that are just getting into AI, they're getting super excited about AI without learning fundamentals, still fail. So now thinking back about my experience, I think it was actually an advantage that I had to do all of these tasks manually, because it forced me to learn about different parts of the process of building an e-commerce business. But today, anyone who starts a business from scratch has the advantages that I didn't have. For example, I had challenges with payment processors. I didn't have PayPal in Ukraine, I didn't have Stripe in Ukraine, so I had to travel across the border to different countries to just establish my company and get a payment processor. Today, if you wanted to establish a company in the United States or get payment processors or getting Stripe or Shopify, you can do that without leaving your house. Platforms like Shopify eliminated technical barriers as well. You can drag and drop pages, you can build pages, or you can also build them completely with AI. So for me, I had all of these infrastructure problems that kind of like were slowing me down in order to get into business. Right now, if you're getting into e-commerce, you have none of those, which makes it easier than ever to get into e-commerce for beginners. So as you guys can see, e-commerce is different, not because I was smart enough to pick, the best business model, but because I was forced into it by circumstances and discovered that it was the only path that could actually scale without trading more time for money. E-commerce businesses are scalable and can be set up in a way where it doesn't just give you the financial freedom, but also gives you the time freedom and location freedom. And you don't need to go through years of failed attempts like I did. Infrastructure exists now, the tools are better, and the barriers are lower than they've ever been. If you want the complete system I use to help people build e-commerce businesses to $1,000 plus per day, click the link in the description to apply for Brand Builders Academy, and I'll see you in the next video.